morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And welcome to Talk of the Town for this Tuesday, May the 5th. I'm Gary Stevens. It's the first Tuesday of the month. It's the Feel the Zeal Tuesday. The Master Gardener, Jane Musin from the Brine Seed, Washington Elm in downtown Zeeland, will join us for the Art and Garden Hour a little after 10. Patty Vandenberg will be with us in about an hour or so with what's new around Holland, and we'll have some open line time for you after the 11 o'clock news block. But our first segment deals with the city of Zeeland on an official basis, and for the second straight month, he's been very gracious to join us from his offices at Zeeland City Hall. He is the city manager for Zeeland, Tim Klunder. Tim, good morning. Go ahead and unmute yourself and welcome aboard to WHTC's Talk of the Town.
Good morning, Gary. Thanks once again.
Glad you are with us this morning to talk about some of the things going on in Zeeland. It's a Zoom conversation, but you can join us the old-fashioned way via the telephone at 395-1450, 395-1450. Obviously, the situation has not really changed a whole lot in a month since last we chatted, Tim, about dealing with the regulations and the restrictions due to the COVID-19 situation. But are you feeling a little bit like maybe we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel on this?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if it's a dim light or definitely not a bright light, but it does feel like things are starting to open up a bit. I would definitely not say getting back to normal. Who knows if we'll, when, the new word is now the new normal. So, I can speak for city operations. So throughout the stay home order, we always had some in-person staff present. The majority of our city staff was deemed as critical infrastructure workers. Now, that did not mean that every person was working their normal shift by any means. And if it was payroll day, the person that does our payroll was in. If it was paying the invoices, then that person was in. So I would say at least at City Hall, we had one person in presence from each department throughout the stay home order. But we are now starting to see a shift where we have more of an in-person presence at City Hall. Operationally, there for a while, our streets and parks department was on shifts where they were operating every other day. That was primarily to make sure we were keeping appropriate distance and limiting the contact between all our staff at one time, so that if in fact one person did get contracted with COVID-19, it would not spread throughout that entire department. Though they are all now back working their normal shift Monday through Friday. And again, when I say normal, we have them reporting to different buildings. They're following all the appropriate social distancing guidelines as much as possible. But we're slowly reintroducing the city and BPW workforce back into the facilities.
Let me touch upon a couple of things that the Zeeland City Council, Tim Klunder, addressed last night. Most notably, take care of a spending plan. Put one in place for fiscal 2021, a document you and your staff were very much instrumental in putting together. Tell us a little bit some of the highlights of that spending plan for 2021, fiscal 2021 in Zeeland.
Yeah, well, I would say the primary highlight is the fact that we did reduce the millage by 1 mil for fiscal year 21. And that, quite honestly, was somewhat precipitated by the whole COVID-19 situation. We understand that, our businesses, our residents, all the taxpayers are dealing with some financial, maybe not all of them, but a good chunk of them are dealing with some financial implications through the COVID-19 situation. And we felt we could do that from a standpoint of not hurting the long-term financial stability of the city, nor our long-term plan of making sure that we're investing back into our infrastructure within the city. So we were able to do that from the fact that if keeping the millage rate at its what is the current millage rate now, we would have generated a surplus. And those funds, some of those funds would have been set aside for things like we're looking at snow melting a larger portion of our downtown. But given the economic climate, we thought it was best to reduce that by a mill. And so instead of, for example, transferring $200,000 into a snow melt fund, that we will not transfer in next fiscal year. Still a balanced budget, and we will still be sitting on very healthy fund balances. So that's one of the highlights. Another highlight is we do have a downtown maintenance special assessment for our downtown that helps take care of, the mowing downtown, the flowers, sweeping sidewalks, all those things. There is a special assessment that's levied on the benefiting properties that generates about $36,000 for the city that we are going to waive for this upcoming year. Same thing. We thought the property owners in our downtown area were certainly going to be recovering from the COVID-19 situation. So that was approved last night as a waiver also. I would say other than that, those two things, which were significant, don't get me wrong, largely the budget we had presented pre-COVID-19. And so we did not make we didn't make any kind of adjustments around things like state revenue sharing that we will get for our general fund or our road funding. They will be reduced. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We were just part of a call yesterday with the Department of Treasury. They're trying to keep local governments updated, and University of Michigan has done some projections for the state, and they're looking at anywhere from $2.6 to $3.2 billion less in revenue. So that will trickle down to the state revenue sharing that local governments receive, and so we will have to make adjustments in next year's budget, no doubt about it. Again, overall healthy. And so we can use some fund balance for things of that nature and or capital projects. As those come up, we will talk through, all right, is this the right time to proceed forward with that capital project, or could we possibly delay it? So
I was going to mention the fact, Tim, was the fact that this is a situation, and you touched upon it, most of the spending plan was already taken care of before everything hit in March with COVID-19, but you had said there has been some adjustments, most notably because the revenues are just not going to be there. It was almost as if you and your staff had to be very agile, for lack of a better term, showing some flexibility and agility to be able to adjust the spending plan, adjust the proposed budget to take that into account.
That's absolutely right. There's no better year than this upcoming fiscal year to remind everyone that a budget is a plan. And it's that. So you do have the ability to amend it with appropriate city council authorization. City council is well aware of that also. And so again, we'll be doing those adjustments as necessary. We just did not feel there's so much uncertainty around what those state revenue sharing reductions might be. And again, the Department of Treasury reminded us of that. They're trying to do the best they can with the information they have available. They don't know if they're going to get federal funding, to help cover some of their budget gap or not. And so they're just not in a position to give us estimates around that. Our revenue sharing right now, and we didn't want to make just a wild guess on what those would be. We felt we were better off staying with the plan that we had put in place. And as you said, we'll be agile and flexible and make those adjustments when more information is available.
We're talking with the city manager of Zeeland, Kevin Kevin Kleinstra is the mayor, but Tim Klunder is the city manager. And if you have a question for Tim, he'll be happy to take it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Looking over the agenda and the supporting documents from last night's meeting, there was something that struck my attention right off the bat. Something that was put together, and I think it was Abby DeRue and the marketing department. Instead of feel the zeal, it was heal, Heal, the zeal. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so again, just great credit goes to Abby and Carrie Vendorp and Tiffany that helps with our marketing department. And they've come up with a number of ideas of just, again, people are tired of staying home and it can get depressing. And so trying to create that message of we're all in it together, certainly want to support our businesses within the community. And so one of the ideas that they came up with was, I don't know if it's a rebranding, but a temporary rebranding, if you will, of our typical Feel the Zeal logo, where now it's a heart with the Z in it. And what you're seeing if you drive through downtown Zeeland, you're going to see a number of those hearts within the business windows. There was so much excitement, for lack of a better word, around the message that was creating, that there was then a request, could we get these at individual residences? And so we partnered with ZR Graphics. They're the ones that actually created these stickers for us. They have now since created stickers that individuals can buy for their houses. So if you drive by the Klunder residence, you'll see a couple of stickers in our windows. They've made them for vehicles, and so you'll see a number of vehicles driving around as well. They also came up with a wonderful idea of red rubber balls. They were going to donate those or hand those out at some events this summer. Obviously, all our summer plans are somewhat up in the air right now. So they have worked with the police department to hand those out to kids with the message that they've been appropriately sanitized. Also making sure that they're only using those within their individual household. But the message on those is that Zeeland will bounce back. So again, they're just really creative in everything that they do. And those have been received very well, in addition to the coloring pages that they've come up with, making sure people are doing their Instagram post of how they're staying at home safely. And so, again, just a lot of credit to that department and to our community. They've really received all those efforts very well.
Yeah, if I had access to my my music machine, I'd probably play the old Circle Red Rubber Ball song after that. But just a thought. Those of us who are a little bit more seasoned, remembering that mid-'60s song, can do that. If you got a question for Tim Klunder, he'll be happy to take it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Some of the events that have been scheduled, municipal events, had to be basically canceled. The Peddlers Market, a casualty, unfortunately. But clarify, if you could, for me, Tim. The Peddlers Market is gone bye-bye. We'll worry about that in 2021. But the Farmers Market in Zeeland, that's still a go, or what?
Yes. So actually, we've had a private farmers market the last couple of years. They were not able to oversee that market again this year. So one of the vendors at that market actually approached the city this past winter, said, I would like to continue the market. It's gained in some popularity. Would there be a possibility if that individual could oversee the market, but be provided with a space in downtown Zeeland? So again, our marketing department, Abby and Terry, jumped on that opportunity, started meeting with Tiffany Gearink, who is going to oversee the market. And so, yes, we've come up with a contract where Tiffany will oversee it, about 8 to 10 vendors. It will be in the spot directly across from City Hall, across the street from the Voner, where we have the synthetic ice rink. So there's a concrete pad there. We do feel we can accommodate about 8 to 10 vendors in that space. Farmers markets are allowed under the stay-at-home order as long as they are providing things like now flowers, obviously, food for consumption, those type of items. Other rules that they have to have is, make sure that social distancing is being adhered to, hand washing stations, and I think each vendor has to have 2 individuals at their station where one can handle the payment and one can handle the product. The only question mark I put around this is this will be the first time that we've delved back into this in a number of years as a city. So just making sure that we can meet all those parameters. I believe May 23rd, I apologize, I don't have my calendar right here in front of me. Whatever that Saturday is the potential for the first day of the market. Whether we'll be ready to go that particular day or not, I think folks will have to stay tuned.
Yeah, that is the Saturday, the 23rd. So if you were guessing right, 23rd would be the appropriate day for a limited farmers market. And I know there's been some concerns on the Holland side about the fact of, social distancing at the 8th Street Marketplace, but they're still ready to go a week from tomorrow to start up the one in Holland. And as you mentioned, farmers markets are allowed under stay home, stay safe. And let's hope this venture becomes a very successful one because, yes, it's nice to have the Holland Farmers Market, but the more the merrier.
Agreed.
Now, we touched upon this a little bit earlier with the fact that in Zeeland, the city council meetings are virtual now. People can participate in these meetings, Tim. But the thing is, there was a little bit of a change last night. Can you sort of clarify that? Because it sort of caught some people off guard who wanted to participate, and all of a sudden, hey, the parameters had changed a little bit.
Yeah, so we do our meetings via WebEx, and when we set those meetings up, there's a code access, not a password, but a code. So when you dial the number, then you put in the code so that you can get into the meeting. So a couple weeks ago, we had to set out early our notice for our public hearing on the budget. So we set that meeting up a couple weeks ago. We had that code number. That one was published in the newspaper and in that and appropriately placed in all our locations around City Hall, like on the door and on our website. In the meantime, we also had to make sure under the governor's order, you have to notify that you're going to have your meeting virtually. So we did one for the regular meeting as well. Unfortunately, that carried over the last pass code. Or the access code, not password, access code. So the agenda had the access code right. The public hearing notice that we had sent out a couple weeks prior to the meeting had the correct one, but the notice that we posted, I think last Wednesday, for the regular meeting carried over the previous access code. We noticed that yesterday. And so we just made sure that everyone that we had previously sent out a packet to, we wanted to clarify which access code was the correct one. I believe everybody ended up getting into the meeting that was necessary. We did have some public well, they didn't comment at the meeting, but we do know we had some public that was at least listening. So that we were confident that we could go forward with the meeting and things of that nature. And we did cover that with the city attorney prior to the meeting last night as well.
Yeah, just sort of some of the glitches that are inherent when you're trying to make a change on the fly, literally on the fly. But some of the kinks are starting to be worked out. Obviously, in a situation, in your case, WebEx, others have used Zoom, to be able to have virtual meetings and the public being able, not needing to be present at the meeting in order to see what the council is doing. Moving forward, is there a possibility once things become, back to face-to-face situations, Tim, that perhaps, again, people will be having a chance to view the meetings without having to be personally there?
I don't know. That one we have not had a discussion around. What I can tell you is our May 18th will be our next regular city council meeting. And at this point in time, we are actually planning to have that one in person. That one will be after the executive order that allows virtual meetings unless that gets extended. But for planning purposes, we are planning to have that around a, again, in-person meeting. We will have it over at our community center, which will enable us to have plenty of social distancing available, and then the public could attend that meeting also. If the executive order on virtual meetings gets extended between now and then, we could potentially pivot and hold that meeting virtually once again. But no, at this point in time, we have not talked about, once again, whether it's Facebook Live or anything of that nature, having those meetings being televised, I guess you would, or going forward. That will have to be a discussion City Council has further as we go forward.
Yeah, an observation situation similar to what Holland has, but of course Holland has a little bit of the head start on everybody because they had the infrastructure put in many, many years ago to be able to have the cameras in and do it live. So it's going to be a little bit of a different thing, but we're starting to be adjusting to this new virtual world that we are all in. Tim Klunder, I'm going to button up the conversation right now with you right here. We got some things to take care of, but most importantly, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on WHTC's Talk of the Town program, telling us what's going on in Zeeland. We'll put a link to the City of Zeeland's regular website when we put the audio podcast on our website at WHTC.com. And then a little bit later on today, we'll upload the video recording of our conversation on Zoom here, and we'll put it again on our Facebook page, 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. We certainly appreciate your time, Tim. And if we get the mayor next month, fine. If not, we'll do this all again next month. We appreciate your time, sir.
Well, thanks for the time, and the mayor's much better at it than I, so.
But indeed, your words are definitely well good, and we certainly appreciate that. On 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.